Welcome to Manna at the Tap, a podcast from Tapestry Ministries. Each episode reflects on a daily Bible reading from the Revised Common Lectionary. I'm Jennifer, a fellow traveler on a spiritual journey with the Tapestry community. We call the daily Bible reading our spiritual manna. It nourishes our souls, fostering spiritual growth as we share insights and interpretations that enrich our spiritual lives. The lectionary reading for Friday, April 25th, 2025, is from the New Testament book of Acts. This book is a series of vignettes that tell us about the lives of key apostles immediately after Jesus' ascension. You might think of these vignettes like an episode of your favorite streamed series. The book of Acts, or Acts of the Apostles, was written by Dr. Luke, who also authored the book in the Bible that we call Luke. Today's vignette is from Acts chapter 5, and it is about the apostles Peter and John. Perhaps you remember other stories about these two followers of Jesus. This was an exciting time for the apostles, and they were passionate about sharing the good news about Jesus. However, the religious leaders tried to stop them and had them arrested for teaching in the temple about Jesus and about Jesus' resurrection. The apostles stated, though, that they would not stop speaking about Jesus and his resurrection, and they continued to preach in the temple. The high priest and his associates were frustrated with them and had Peter and John arrested for the second time. All the high priest and his associates could do to Peter and to John was to threaten them and then let them go again, because the authorities couldn't decide how best to punish Peter and John, and the authorities were also afraid of the people. The high priest and his associates, I think, were also jealous of the ministry of the apostles, who were not trained religious leaders, and yet they had a huge following. So the authorities decided to arrest the apostles again, this time placing them in a public jail. But during the night, an angel of the Lord entered the jail and led them out. And the angel then commanded them to go, stand in the temple courts, and continue to tell the people about the good news of Jesus. Early the following day, the apostles began to teach the people as commanded by the angel. Now, in the meantime, the high priest and his associates called a meeting and sent to the jail for the apostles. And when the officers arrived at the prison, it was securely locked, and the guards were standing on duty outside the doors. But when they opened the door to the jail, no one was inside. The officers promptly reported back to the chief commander that the apostles were not there. Everyone was at a loss, wondering what had happened. And then someone said that the men in jail were now standing in the temple courts teaching the people. Once again, apostles were arrested and brought before the ruling council. Now, the lectionary text ends here in verse 26, but let me tell you what happened to the apostles. The high priest and religious leaders were annoyed because Peter and John had not obeyed their authority to stop preaching, and the situation went from bad to worse. The authorities thought the message of Jesus would have stopped when they crucified Jesus. But the message of Jesus continued to flourish as the apostles were teaching the people. And then the religious leaders tried putting the disciples in jail, hoping to make them stop teaching the people. They even went as far as to accuse the disciples of trying to pin Jesus' death on them with their teachings. Thankfully, there was a level-headed member of the council who offered some good advice. The religious authorities were to leave the apostles alone, let them go. If they were from God, no one would be able to stop them, and the religious leaders would find themselves fighting against God. So the authorities took this advice. They warned the apostles to stop preaching and flogged them afterwards. But the apostles left that council gathering overjoyed because they had suffered for the cause of Christ. There are many other stories from these early days after Jesus' resurrection and ascension coming in the next few weeks. So I hope you'll tune in again to hear what else happens. And thank you for joining us today for this episode of Manna at the Tap. I hope you'll take a moment to leave a comment below and share this episode with someone that you care about so that you can talk about it together. And if you haven't already, would you press that like button and subscribe to the channel? Your support would be a great help. Many blessings on your day.